Hi, this is a video to go through Chapter 3 of Marketing 224, International Marketing. So this chapter, we're going to talk about international trade and the barriers and the facilitators that are out there to help us or to help people that are interested in selling internationally. So many multinational firms and governments want to reduce trade barriers. Trade barriers can take the form of tariffs, import quotas, and essentially would increase the cost for them to sell their product to another country. So why do countries want to have protectionism? Well, the first reason is they want to protect markets with excessive productive capacity. So when countries, a lot of those countries that were historically communist, they had huge factories because everyone had to have a job. Well, so after the fall of communism, these were sold, and these firms realized that they did not need all those people for optimal production. So they usually only need the fraction of the resources to have optimal performance, and to not have an excess, oversupply or undersupply or whatever. So sometimes governments will limit foreign investment so that you don't compete with this excessive capacity as you have. The second reason is employment protection and protection of markets with excess labor. So making sure that, so if you are importing goods, that means that you don't need people to work those jobs. So I've heard the stat that for every $1 billion of imports, that's 7,000 jobs. So that's what we mean by excess labor. If you have people that are unemployed and you're importing, if you made those products in your own country and didn't import, maybe those people would have jobs. Infant industry argument allows low-income countries to protect new industries from international competitors. Natural resources, there's a worldwide shortage of raw materials, so making sure that you are allow governments to impose trade restrictions aimed at conserving national resources. Consumer protection. So the EU banned U.S. beef because the U.S. allows corn-fed cows, and the EU felt that the consumers were better off with their local beef. And then national defense. Sometimes this is used by countries that want to limit Western influence on their citizens. So that would be in like Eastern countries. Tariffs are just their taxes on products. So if I am a U.S. company and I am exporting T-shirts to Venezuela, they would charge me, a 20% tax, 30% tax, whatever the case may be. U.S. tariffs are generally less than 10%. Non-tariff barriers, quotas saying, okay, you can only sell 1 million T-shirts and then you're done. Non-import, restrict imports of a given product from a certain country. So Argentina has a list of about 600 items. Among them are textiles and laptops. Anti-dumping. Dumping is when you would sell a product in a foreign country for cheaper than you sell it in your own country. So if Russia sold steel to the U.S. for cheaper price than they sold it to their own Russian citizens. And a lot of times, companies are trying to get rid of inventory, intimidate importers. And so anti-dumping is one. Price control. So some countries have a requirement that a percentage of the products be locally produced. So you can't do much about that if that is what a country states. Sanctions, boycotts. McDonald's in France was boycotted as the French were against tariffs imposed by the U.S. Embargo, so you do not trade with a country. So the U.S. just recently lifted their trade embargo with Cuba. We still do have a trade embargo with North Korea. Sanctions, the U.S. has put sanctions on Russia because they were not happy with Russia taking hold of the Crimea and other actions that Russia's taken, trying to reduce punitive charges so that Russia will stop doing what it's doing, but with limited success. A lot of people have said at this point. World Trade Organization, trade rules and regulations, and they have several different trade policies. I will make sure you are familiar with those. Group of 8, since all this stuff with Russia, and it's now the G7. Russia is no longer included. Addresses biotechnology, food safety, economic development, terrorism. World Bank sponsors economic development, especially the poor countries in the world. And then free trade zones, tax areas not considered part of the country for import purposes. So merchandise is outside the jurisdiction. Okay. That's it for chapter 3. Hope this was helpful. Have a great day.